Can you beat Far Cry 3 without guns? A question so ludicrous that I'm sure somebody else has already attempted this before me. But this game is near and dear to my heart, so I'm going to attempt to perform this run for you today. The rules are simple. I can't use any guns in this playthrough. Since I'm pretty seasoned when it comes to the Far Cry series, I'm going to play on hard. We got a lot to unpack here, so let's waste no more time and jump straight into it. On today's spectacular coming of age story, we are introduced to Jason Brody, a real deal frat house bro and certified bra. Among his many talents in life, you will come to learn that he always wins at beer pong and manages to steal your girlfriend. So keep your distance from this stud. Currently Jason, his two brothers and a couple of friends are summering on an unknown island in the South Pacific. The idyllic vacation came to an abrupt end, however, when the bros and gals were taken hostage by the local gang of pirates. Or so Oliver would have you believe. That's right, Jason is not so easily fooled. He knows that Goofy Goober is pulling another elaborate prank on them. Vars, the supposed captor, was even showing me some funny cat videos to pass the time and promised me that we would have lots of fun while we were waiting for the ransom. Ollie really went all out on this one. But of course, my older brother Grant was going to ruin the moment. His PTSD kicked in and he had to go and break us out of here. What can I say? He's been through a lot in Iraq, so I went along with this silly plan to make him feel better. After sneaking around the camp and studying a normal day in the life of a pirate, we eventually reached the outskirts of the camp. And it was here where Grant thought it would be a great idea to pull out the map and start laying down a plan. Next thing I knew, we were spotted and Vars put a bullet in my brother's neck. I almost hesitated to try and save him for being such a dumbass. Had he just sat in his cage, this would have gone a whole lot smoother. Vars, being the kind man that he is, allowed me a little head start and I ran like my life depended on it. I didn't make it very far before I was ambushed by a man with a big knife, and just before I managed to overpower him, he alerted the squad of my whereabouts. Little did I know at the time that this kill was going to be the first of many. With the enemy closing in, I was back to hauling ass. With nowhere else to go, I was forced to run across this bridge, which collapsed and I was dumped headfirst into the river. Unlike my delirious brother Grant, I can read a room and know this is a good time to discuss the battle plan. Our arsenal will be limited this run, consisting of the recurve bow, the machete, the flamethrower, explosive, moletovs, and of course, the mighty repair tool. No good Samaritan is going to break down on the Rakyat roads unaided. With all these good deeds under my belt, I'm sure to amass a lot of karma and rally more soldiers to my side. Other than the Rakyat, the bow is going to be my best friend this run. When I run out of arrows, I'm going to use throwables and hope the enemy sucks worse than I do. Then play ring around the rosie with them so I can sneak up behind them with the machete. After many unconscious hours, I woke in Dennis' tattoo and barbecue shop and was told that I was destined to be Rambo the one-man army, because the tattoo on my arm, the tattoo, was the equivalent of doing my horoscope on this remote island. Dennis took me outside and showed me around the local village and talked himself up, and I was able to deduce that he was the equivalent of the high school alpha male who was captain of the football team on this island.
You guys breed them good looking around here, man. They look young, but man, hey, old enough to breed, old enough to bleed, or whatever, man.
He also gave me some cash for a ticket to Freaky Friday. I politely tried to decline his offer, but he talked some confidence into me and said,
"There's a first time for everything."
What exactly was going to happen at the event was not clear, but one thing was certain: I was going to need a gun to attend. I tried to resist, but Dennis wouldn't budge. I tried running away, but Ubisoft wouldn't allow me to leave. So with no other choice, I reluctantly purchased myself a gun. Little did I know that I was going to regret this decision. I don't think I'm allowed to talk about Freaky Friday in more detail, but I will at the very least recommend it if you happen to be in the area. After bonding with Dennis at the event, he took on the task of showing me the range and teaching me to become a man. I was just enjoying my stay on the island and had almost forgotten all about my friends. Until one day when me and Dennis were out boozing and cruising, I got a call on the cell phone I had stolen from the pirates. Turns out they held my girlfriend Lisa captive at one of the outposts. I was annoyed by this interruption, but we happened to be nearby at the time and getting late couldn't hurt, so we buckled up and headed to the spot. Dennis dropped me off like I was attending my first day of school and told me, "Remember everything I have taught you. This is your first test." If you ask me, he totally left me high and dry here. I guess he expected me to use my gun, but he didn't know of my ulterior motives. So I took on the outpost armed with only the machete. But I had a secret weapon, rocks. With these I was able to lure pirates out one by one and taking them out in a secure location with my knife. I would start the attack my ass. I was the attack. Today was not the day. I was getting late, however. for Lisa had escaped. Ubisoft tried to tease me with an AK, but I remained strong, while my boy Dennis dropped me some info on where I might find another one of my friends. But before I followed up on that lead, I was introduced to a new enemy, the bulletin board. This time would be different. I was not going down the rabbit hole of completing all the side content, but I was going to do the assassination just this once so I could earn some more cash for my bow. With the bow now in my possession, I headed to Dr. Earnhardt's, but this time it wasn't for pleasure. It was strictly for business. Let me cut straight to the chase. Daisy had cut her arm on some sort of deadly plant and was now in critical condition. We now needed a couple of cave mushrooms. Dr. E had definitely been hitting the potent shit again, and he didn't seem to be all there, but I had no choice but to trust him. After spelunking for hours and hours and accidentally tripping balls down there, I finally found the stash and carefully handpicked the best mushroom head on the string. I'm sorry, I have to break the fourth wall here. Dr. E said a couple of cave mushrooms, and I go through all this. I've been down here for at least like 12 hours and I only take one mushroom with me. What if Daisy needs more medicine? I guess she doesn't, but how did Jason know this? Whatever, I digress. While Dr. E was preparing the medicine 10 red mushrooms deep, I had an emotional breakthrough with Daisy, who was now awake, and tried to hit on her. But Dr. E interrupted us, and I decided that it would be a great idea to drop off all of my friends and family at his place. But he wouldn't agree to it until Daisy spoke up. He called her Agnes. I don't know if the doctor was just confused or they got some sort of freaky role playing going on here, but I wasn't going to interfere and break the sacred bro code between me and the doctor. So I snuck out of the room hoping to come back later and steal that cash, and god damn it! However, there's only one thing worse to be accused of than stealing, and that's being a peeker. So I quickly realized my mistake and went downstairs to call my father figure Dennis. This being 2012, he told me that the Rakyat had long been annoyed by the pirates playing nothing but the stereotypical Gangnam Style and Skrillex jams on the radio. So he thought that I would be the man to put an end to this. He did throw me a bone and said, oh well, maybe you'll get some intel where the rest of your friends are, I don't know. So with nothing better to do, I set a course for the Medusa, did a little warm up with the bow and hooked the homeboys up with an outpost. Unable to handle the medieval warfare tactics of Jason Brody, the enemies were dying in a most spectacular fashion. I was just sneaking around the shipwreck and taking them out systematically. But the tables were about to turn on me, because the pirates quickly noticed the absence of their jams and came for my ass. And this time I didn't have the benefit of stealth. With only 6 arrows, I had to take on an army of pirates. Even with my almost flawless accuracy, I quickly ran out and was down to throwables. And when I eventually ran out of those, I was forced to come down from my camping spot. However, upon realizing there was only one dude left, I got impatient and tried to melee him. What was even more frustrating, however, is when I gave it a second try and did the same goddamn thing. 3rd time's the charm, right? This time I was going to take it slow, pick up my arrows and use the terrain to my advantage. But newsflash, I fucking suck. And this turned into an intense 1v1. I had missed so many arrows that I lost track of where they were. But if you can't defeat them, join them. As much as I wanted to do that, that option wasn't on the table. So I confused him by running around in circles. I managed to sneak up behind him and do a takedown. After this victory, I didn't get a moment to gather myself before Dennis hit me up on speed dial with another job for me. I was beginning to feel like I was the Rakyat's toy soldier, being kicked around like a tomato can and doing all the dirty work for them.
Gutterball, you fucking suck.
So I half-assed the job and made a run for it so I could get closer to locating my girl. After hassling Dennis, he eventually told me where Vaz was recording his prisoner beating ASMR videos. On my way there, I came to realize that being forced to use Ubisoft Connect wasn't the worst thing that happened to me that day. All of a sudden, it was like I was inside of a disco ball, and shortly after, the game crashed. You see, my game didn't run that smoothly, so I looked up a fix and it turns out that turning on threaded optimization in the game files would fix this. But now I was experiencing perpetual crashes, so I tried down patching to DirectX 9, since I figured old game plus old DirectX is a winning combo. Some side effects were experienced, like whatever the fuck this is, but at least the game was running without crashes for the time being. So after that whole ordeal, I eventually arrived at Pirate's Cove and cased the place. In conclusion, the security was not up to Mike Ehrmantraut standards, because I managed to infiltrate the place with ease. But unfortunately, I fell for the good old Home Alone trick, and my sexual frustration was now at an all-time peak. In my rage, I left my guard down and got caught with my pants down. Next thing I knew, I was tied down and getting oiled up. Vaz gave me a villain speech, and I could have actually caught several foreshadowing moments if I had been astute, but all I heard was,
I'm insane. I am cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
I was quite frankly too upset to pay attention, because look who was sitting across from me. That traitor had gone too far this time. Clearly Ollie was the mastermind behind all this. Do you think it's a coincidence that he was pulled out and me and Lisa was left here to burn? Nonetheless, it was too late to do anything about it now. After breaking Lisa out of the burning building, we were going to make a run for it in a nearby vehicle. And this is where I was truly going to be put to the test. I had to exercise extreme willpower in order to abstain from using the grenade launcher. Hitting the driver with arrows was going to be very difficult, but yeah, I wasn't even allowed to fire. I wasn't even allowed to throw grenades or moletovs, but I was a man of determination. For the duration of the entire car ride, I was just tanking lead and healing up when my health became low. As it turns out, the Ubisoft devs had implemented some sort of safe net in case the game reviewer played the game. Eventually, I managed to get a checkpoint and the car died. The enemies were now in front and I hopped in the passenger seat, but unfortunately, just like before, I was not able to do anything but use the weapon provided. I couldn't exit the car either, so my plan was to hold out with syringes until Lisa had gotten the car running again. Needless to say, this plan was not viable, since women obviously can't fix cars. I was just dying on repeat and couldn't survive for long enough. After a while, it became clear to me that my sexism was uncalled for. Lisa probably couldn't concentrate on the car when bullets were flying over her head. What a pathetic beta. So with no other choice, I had to use the 1911 I had bought on that fateful Friday last week. Had I not been so curious on these people's culture, this wouldn't have happened. Shortly after using this gun, the Ubisoft powers that be was disappointed in this bending of the rules and shut my game down. And I was now forced to go through the whole mission again. Turns out I crashed right at the end of it too. Lovely. Lisa was clearly traumatized by recent events and was not down for some hanky-panky. So I put her on ice in Dr. E's man cave, helped the woman with the engine and skedaddled.
I'm hot, slippery, wet, and I'm always craving big, cum-gushing cocks in my tight, pink ass.
Dennis reached me on his phone and I told him I managed to save Lisa, but still had 3 to go. He then ignored me and proceeded to gaslight me, saying things like, "You're not strong enough to defeat Vars yet, but I know someone who can give you such powers." So I met up with a very constipated Dennis and entered the ancient Rakyat temple.
Damn, you fine as hell. Hey yo, think I can get your nut?
Are you serious, my brother?
This is where I was introduced to Citra, leader of the native bozos and queen of this shithole.
Fine word. I'll give it back to you after I cut it off. I thought you liked jokes.
Yeah, but not funny. Apparently Citra saw the autism within me and gave me a potion to alleviate it. I was a bit skeptical, but Dennis assured me that it wasn't going to make me constipated, so I downed the whole thing like it was bubblegum vodka. A common side effect of drinking this potion was visions of things that are, things that were, and things that have not yet come to pass. After the fugue state had passed, it became clear to me that Citra wanted me to find some sort of letter opener from ancient time. And to do that, I had to go and talk to the man in my vision. So after stocking up on supplies, I made the long haul to Shantytown. Just kidding, I fast traveled there. Little did I know at the time that this had a 20% chance of fucking up my video. I only found out about this when I reached Hoyt's Island, and I was pissed off. Tomato red face, smoke coming out of the ears, the whole 9 yards. So there is going to be a couple instances of me showing footage I've downloaded in order to fill in the blanks. Anyway, after this Assassin's Creed R mission, I was tasked with burning down Vars's wheat fields. And I did so with pride. I'm not gonna lie, this is where the game started to up the ante, and I was starting to get in over my head. I had to master this bow if I would have any chance of surviving some of the later missions, but for now I was managing. This mission did however require me to blow up a boat before it would escape, and I obviously couldn't use the RPG. I thought for a moment I was shit out of luck here, but as it turns out, I could sneak around all the houses and get the jump on the boat before it sailed away. A lot of haste and skill was needed to perform this speedrunning skip, and I have no idea why the sailor died before I blasted him with the flamethrower. Ubisoft is sending me mixed signals here. Back in Shantytown, I returned to Willis.
I just woke up in a fucking steaming mood, yeah? Because I live in a shithole!
Willis played me a tape of Vars and his boss Scarface, who talked shit about me behind my back. I was shocked. They even made plans to stuff me in a garbage can. Willis was pretty up to snuff on the whole pirate organization and had a man on the inside who might know where and when my friends would be sold into slavery. And he was of course taken capture at the moment. Nothing's ever easy around here. This mission was for some reason the hardest so far. I probably replayed this minefield sequence 15 times. Either I played it flawlessly but Willis' man died, or I would accidentally run into a mine and kill him or myself. Listen up, Rongo. Fuck kind of name is that anyway? I can only carry 15 arrows and I need to go and pick them up again. him. I can't protect you without them. The village portion of this mission was a whole lot easier. For some reason, the pirates' AI can handle close quarter combat, so they would often get confused or stuck, allowing me to shoot them down with ease. I even managed to hit a couple no-scopes with the bow and perform a dunk for the first time in this playthrough. After this whole massacre took place, Rongo managed to get his paperwork in order and file his taxes, and also get me a copy of the transportation manifest. The pirates are apparently so dumb that they would keep this incriminating evidence. Long story short, I now knew where Oliver would be handed over to the buyers, and I couldn't wait to confront this buffoon. But when I got there, I was very worried about the sniper on the ground. I swear, if this game is going to lock me into the scope, we are going to have a problem. And yep, I was boxed in. Couldn't cancel out, call Mama over to help me take the pirates out or nothing. So I had to sin once again. What was even worse was when I got onto the boat with Oliver, and I was locked into the turret with no way to exit. Well, on my first attempt I somehow did, but I died, and after that I couldn't. Literally, my only option was to hit Q at the optimal time and hold out. But I had entered this mission with 2 little health potions, so I had to cancel the mission and go foresting for more. After stocking up and gathering plants for 9 potions, I gave it another go. I felt bad about all this. I'm playing on hard, mind you, and I was able to beat the whole sequence without killing a single enemy. Me and Ollie had a bro-on-bro talk. If it wasn't for the fact that he was a child of divorce, I may have gone a lot harder on him. But the situation gave me some leverage, and I managed to make him agree to sleeping in the lower bunk from now on. Following the farce, I was tuckered out and went back to Shantytown to relax. And it was at the bar I ran into a fella named Buck. I'm sure this guy doesn't have an ego problem. Turns out he had my boy Keith chained up in his Thunderdome for sexual experimentation. Small world, huh? In exchange for Keith, this fuckboy wanted me to find a letter opener for him. Great! Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Finally something is going my way. The pirates were already well on their way to find the knife. The time was of the essence, and I had to find out what they knew. So I was going on some James Bond type mission. You may think that getting onto the boat would be quite the challenge, but no, there was a conveniently placed wooden ladder on the side of it, which definitely didn't feel out of place. I digged some pirates down with the bow, nothing special, until I ran into a new boy toy, which couldn't be killed with a single arrow. But I now remembered that I unlocked explosive arrows, and 2 of these pebbles to the face is enough to defeat even these enemies. Somehow, the enemies below were completely oblivious to the smaller version of World War II that took place on the top deck, and they definitely underestimated the sneakiness of Jason Bra. Turns out the pirates didn't know much, but they did have a compass, which would be vital to finding the knife. Following this was a sequence of caving missions straight out of Indiana Jones, where I would find pieces to power my compass. These caves were of course crawling with morally ambiguous characters of the violent kind, but I was going to sneak past them. This may not be in the intended way of playing these missions, but I was sure as hell going to try. I got spotted pretty quickly however, so I tried running away and got killed, but I managed to trigger a checkpoint, so works for me. This mission also made me shit my pants when I got attacked by a big ass saltwater crocmite. The next mission in the trilogy had a straightforward corridor like design, so it wasn't possible to run past the usual suspects on the scene. But there was an ammo crate placed at the halfway point, so I didn't run out of arrows at any point. And may I add, I've become quite proficient with my archery. My compass was now complete, and it was time to throw it in the air and let it lead me to the stronghold where the knife was buried. By no means did I have enough arrows for all the pirates in this mission, but in my desperation I accidentally found another speedrunning skip and managed to cheese the majority of the combat and ran for the tomb where the knife was buried. With the knife in my possession, Buck was thirsty to talk to me and invited me to his abode. Even after handing him the artifact, he wouldn't let me and Keith off the hook, so I engaged him in melee combat and did the only thing I knew. Violence was like my second language, and I crushed him with my words. You know the drill. I brought Keith back to the Batcave, smoked the spliff with Ollie, and that wasn't me, it's some footage I downloaded. Keith told me my brother Riley was dead, and I got very upset and got into a fight with Lisa. I was definitely not hitting that tonight, so I decided to pay Citra a visit and give her the knife. Dennis, being the player that he is, knew that the knife would get Citra's walls Aquafina wet and tried to take it from me. Citra then hit me with some cultish mumbo jumbo shit.
Yep.
When he was walk the path of the lotus pond.
Before I left the temple, I ran into Dennis, who was late for the daily human sacrifice. He told me Vars and his convoy was on their way to the radio station at Medusa, so he could plug in his Nickelback playlist. Horrified by this event, I was quick to organize a roadblock and wire it with C4. In this small suburb, me and my Rakyat brothers were going to make our final stand. Just like when your wife invites the in-laws over for the weekend, the C4 worked like a charm. But I didn't expect to be up against some military crew. These were clearly well equipped and looked organized. Nevertheless, we are playing playing a Ubisoft game, so that pirate's dumb AI was copy and pasted onto these enemies. So after doing some Legolas in Return of the King things, I chased after the last car in the convoy. Very conveniently, he pulled over, which made it easy for me to destroy the radio equipment, and oh my god, this must have been the third time I got caught by Vars. He gave me a lecture on Einstein's theories and sent my ass to horny jail for playing grab ass with his sister. I escaped, again, and found myself without any weapons but the machete. I was now going to take out a whole camp of pirates under stealth. My timbers were kind of shivering at the prospect of being stuck here, and as you might expect, I got spotted pretty quickly and went for plan B on a whim. Just running for the helicopter seemed a bit too easy to be the solution. But it was. I was then shot down, survived that somehow, but then Vars came in and shot me. But remember when I said I missed some foreshadowing earlier? Yeah, the lighter Vars planted on me stopped the bullet that would have killed me. How is that for some poetic irony? Jason's plot armor is truly thicker than his criminal record. Does it burn like a mother when you piss? Well, you should have used a rubber, silly. Don't go sticking your dick in some hoe bag without protection. 9 out of 10 doctors recommend Durex, and so do I. Just buy a pack. You never know when you'll need it. Almost getting killed twice on this mission alone had me second guessing myself, and it was at this point I put my foot down. Enough was enough. No longer was I going to be the Rakyat's errand boy. I now had a new purpose and was going to become a simp. And as a token of my new status, Citra gave me a flask of her bathwater. After participating in some freaky ritual that could be mistaken for fanfiction, I had the favor of the gods, and it was now time to complete my last test and become the man I was always meant to be. My plan was to party crash at Vars' Island and smoke a peace pipe with him, so the Rakyat and the pirates finally could live side by side. But I guess he found out about me spreading his sister's cheeks on the altar and sent the goon squad on me. What can I say, Vars? The Lord works in mysterious ways. Truth be told, assuming that you keep this between you and me, I was so eager to get a piece of ass that I had forgotten that the killing Vars mission was connected to it, so I didn't stock up on arrows and felt naked in the face of so many enemies. But eventually I managed to locate an ammo crate, which didn't do much because there was simply way too many enemies for my medieval arsenal to handle. So I tried running to the next area, but it didn't work this time, and in a total panic I took cover in this container and was now cornered. But somehow this spot was perfect to camp in, and I now started digging down the pirates little by little. I'm not going to lie to you and say my gameplay was overly bodacious or anything, but when times are tough, one needs to let go of his honor and just do what is necessary. Eventually all the pirates dissipate and I enter Vars' compound, only to be shanked. But I guess all the passive drug smoking on the premises had me imagining all this. It was also here where I accidentally broke the treaty when I suddenly had a rifle in my hands. I hope you can forgive me for this Freudian slip. I did restart the sequence promptly. This part was a bit tricky at first, until I got into the groove and learned the Vars clone's attack patterns. Slowly but surely I was inching my way forward, until I could get close enough to make a run for the final area. This part of the game always gets me emotional. By far the most captivating part about this whole game is Michael Mandel's performance as Vars, but you have to kill him off to progress. After that, the game feels like it should be over, but you still have a whole new island to explore and a new villain who isn't half as compelling as Vars. I do like that you kill him in a dream sequence, and the detail where he looks at you after you stab him, keeping it ambiguous whether or not you actually did kill him. But it was now time for a goodbye, because my friends had fixed the boat and were ready to leave. Well, they still had to dump it into the ocean. I guess Ubisoft's just going to ignore that part. Of course, these weak-minded simpletons didn't understand the importance of my work on this island and tried to convince me to come with them. They were just jealous and intimidated by the absolute unit of a Sigma male standing before them. So I refused to elaborate and went upstairs to hit the potent shit with Dr. E. After a fruitful homeboy hangout, I was ready to fly from the nest in order to continue my futile murder spree, and I knew just the man to talk to. Willis owed me a favor and was willing to fly me to Hoyt's Island, but his plane was attacked by gremlins just before takeoff, and I would have loved to talk more about this section, because it was actually the hardest part so far, but my entire footage looked like this. And if that wasn't enough, then after finally completing the mission, my game crashed, and I now had to complete the whole thing again, still without getting a second of the action on camera. After struggling with the mission for over half an hour, I crash landed on Hoyt's own personal island. Yes indeed, the game crashed again. I decided to turn off threaded optimization. The game was now gonna run a little choppy, but that was a small price to pay to get rid of these crashes. After settling in on the island, I tracked down a privateer named Sam, which Willis was in cahoots with and came highly recommended. This was also the point where I started started to question whether or not all this time on the island was starting to get to my head. Nevertheless, a plan was hatched. Hoyt was a busy man who didn't have time to care for trivial problems like me. He didn't even know what I looked like, so I was now going to get my very own privateer cosplay and fool him. Under my new moniker as Fuzzy Dunlop, I was going to befriend Hoyt and take upper deckers in his office bathroom. Once again, this bullshit corrupted my footage, and the game also crashed once or twice during this stealth mission. This run might as well be called Can You Beat Far Cry 3 with performance issues. It was also on this mission I was formally introduced to the man behind the global drug and human trafficking enterprise. When Hoyt Volker showed up to give his new recruits a speech, similar to those Jordan Belfort gave his brokers. Hoyt here has come a long way from his humble beginnings as a coal miner, and is now a proud trade union man who cares a lot about his employees' well-being and rights. He may be a little rough around the edges and morally corrupt at times, but his legitimate business is now the priority behind the scenes. It was also at this event I met a privateer who offered to let me in on some juicy insider trading. Busting these traders was an easy way for Hoyt to notice how much of a go-getter I was, so I went to their hangout spot and used my undercover alibi to prank them and steal their documents. But the actual transaction of the assets was eluding me. Sam told me that the head honchos of the greedy backstabbers was meeting on a bridge to share the profits, and this is where I was going to get my claims of fame, so Daddy Hoyt would notice me. Operation Deep Throat was now in full. Hey yo, I don't know about you, dude. You're going that way? Once again, Ubisoft was attempting to ruin my grind set by merely suggesting that I use an RPG. Now why the hell would I want to do that when I have explosive arrows? We're just going to ignore the part where I forgot about them and tried to throw a grenade on the bridge. Oh man, I gotta say, I now understand what it must have been like for Keith, because I got straight up DP'd in the fucking asshole on this mission. Not one dick in that ass, two dicks in that ass at the same time. That's for the 12-year-olds who don't know what DP means, goddammit, and I'm not into that. Getting shot at from all angles made it impossible to keep my aim steady. If I didn't know any better, I would have thought my dad played this section. The checkpoint at the top of the cliff may be the only reason I eventually got through this part. With the evidence in my possession, Sam arranged an audience with Hoyt, and I sat down with him and talked shop. He blew some smoke up my ass and made a boat explode to prove a point about globalization.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
He also told me he had a prisoner downstairs who was no longer on his hot/cool guy list anymore, and he thought it would be fun to let me do the honors and torture him while he watched on the cameras. Hey, different strokes for different folks. So I comply. But a moment of sheer panic hits me when I find out the prisoner is my brother Riley. The beating he was about to receive was for that one time he stole my Lego Star Wars watch. And I never got that thing back. You hear me? You piece of shit! Even Sam was horrified by the mollywhopping I was dishing out on this poor kid. But we had to make it look real. I guess the plan worked because Hoyt invited me and Sam over for a game of Twister the next tomorrow. In the meantime, me and Sam did some trolling and blew up Hoyt's router. It was also around this time I caught up with Dennis on the phone. I told him I found my brother, but he didn't give a shit and told me to let go of my past. The Rakyat was my family now, he said. I was beginning to think I had joined a cult here or something. Anywho, me and Sam proceeded to destroy Hoyt's septic tanks. This mission was quite challenging. I was just inching my way forward with checkpoints. Later on in the mission, we ran out of bullets and Sam left me in the car while he went into the convenience store. With so many enemies piling up, you may think I would have no choice but to use the turret, but I had a strategy: spam Q. Literally just hitting Q when my health became low and clenching my butt cheeks was all that was needed to survive this deadly situation. With Hoyt's operation in shambles, it was time to tuck him in bed, but I had been lied to. There was no Twister at the get together, and Hoyt didn't buy my hogwash. In fact, he knew all along that me and Sam planned to expose him for picking up a cupcake. He sent my only remaining friend on a one-way trip to Belize and threatened to dislike bomb my YouTube channel if I even thought about releasing such a video onto the world. There was only one way to settle this feud between us: a one-on-one breakdance battle. I'm not gonna lie, he had some moves, but ultimately this island wasn't big enough for both of our egos. There could only be one victor, and that would be me, because I cheated and turned him into a popsicle. For this final marathon, the game threw everything it had against me, including crashes, and I was in a pickle because I had no syringes. I could go into way more detail on this public humiliation, but in the event that it's past your bedtime, I'm going to be brief. After 6 tries, I eventually managed to get out and steal a car and make it onto the airstrip, where I used stealth to break out Riley and was now going to face the final boss of this run. This helicopter ride was a nightmare for yours truly. You can't be killed in this section, and you can't leave the turret, and it's supposed to gun down the RPG snipers before they sink your helicopter. Praying for the enemies to have stormtrooper aim was literally my only option. After 5 attempts, I managed to get through this bit on the river, where there was still 6 RPG dudes waiting around the corner on this airstrip. I even tried to lower the difficulty to easy, but that didn't lower the RPG damage. It may be possible to get through this section if you set up a program and run a million simulations of this game, but I'm not a programmer, so I had to break the rules for the 3rd and final time in order to fly home to Dr. Earnhardt. But look how they massacred my boy. Killing Dr. E and dragging all of my friends to the temple was a step too far, so I flew over there with Riley to confront Citra. That's right, I had a moment of post-nut clarity. I didn't want to be horny anymore, I just wanted to be happy. Cool beans, give me that. Holy, oh my bad. Yeah, this is kinda bad. Fuck this.
What is wrong with you? She saved me. She saved all of us. And you reject her love? Ah!
What are you doing, Rara? So, you can't beat Far Cry 3 without guns. But outside of like 3 scripted events, you definitely can.